Do you struggle with getting low in your squat? Maybe you squat and you feel like you're gonna fall backwards or your body tips forward. If that is you, there's probably a big reason why, and it's usually due to one body part. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to work on those ankles, which is the body part, and how to assess the range of motion. And if you struggle with that range of motion assessment, how to correct it, and also some modifications you can do in your workout until your range of motion is perfect. If you want to see those tips, make sure you stay tuned. All right, so the first thing we have to do in the sequence is we have to assess the ankle. We have to have proper ankle, especially dorsiflexion when we're trying to squat low. So when we're squatting, we need to make sure that we have really good range of motion down in this ankle joint. If we do not, what's going to happen is as we squat down, we're gonna stop because we don't have enough range of motion, and we're either gonna feel like we're gonna fall backwards or we're going to feel like we're tipping over, and that's gonna feel like we're going lower, but we're pretty much not. We're just moving our upper body. So the first thing we have to do is we have to run through an assessment to make sure that we have enough ankle range of motion. So let's do that right now. So the first thing we have to do is we have to actually see if we have enough ankle range of motion, enough dorsiflexion, and we have to do that by assessing. And one of the easiest ways to do this is in a half kneeling position, which just means one knee is on the ground. And then I'm going to use part of this workout equipment, but if you're at home, using a wall is perfect. What we're going to do is we're gonna grab our fist and place our fist on the wall and then put our toe right where the fist is. This gives us at least a kind of a good range of, or a good idea of how far we should go. And if you pass the test, and all we're going to do is keep the heel on the ground. I recommend, let's actually take these off. Whew. Smelly. What we're going to do is keep the heel on the ground, and then we're going to push our knee to the wall. Make sure the heel doesn't pop up off the floor, and make sure the knee is going over kind of like the middle part of your foot. So just like this. Oops, hold up. Create that fist. It's like, that's way too easy. Just like that. So for me, I have pretty good range of motion. Heel stays on the ground. My knee is kind of right over that middle part of the toe, and I passed. So, but let's say you're struggling with it and you get to here and you get stuck. So that's where we want to start working on doing some mobilizations to work on that ankle range of motion. And I'm going to show you a couple movements that I love to do to help regain some range of motion. Let's get started with the first movement to help regain some of that range of motion. And it's basically doing the assessment again. You're doing the assessment again, and it's a really great mobility exercise. So all we're going to do, same thing, keep the heel on the ground, push the knee over the middle part of the foot, and that's it. And we'll do about 10 reps going back and forth. A couple key points here. I like to make sure that the knee does not fall in the middle. Make sure you do not do that, because you'll be able to go a lot further and you'll get kind of a false positive here. So again, knee over the middle part of the toe. And one great thing you can do, great tip, is make sure your hips are pointing forward when you're doing this. When you when you open up your hips, you can see your knee kind of drags in, and it makes it a lot easier for that to go in the middle. You square up your hips, pointing them forward, a lot easier for that knee to track over the middle part of the foot. Also, I also like to use a PVC pipe as kind of a guide. I like to put it over by more of my pinky toe, maybe the second or third toe, that middle toe. And then from here, we'll do that same motion, just sliding forward, but we want to push that knee to the outside of the PVC pipe. Again, this is just a good guide and good visual for you to make sure that you don't fall in that way. And again, about 10 reps is good. And now let's run through our second movement. Next movement is a band distracted ankle mobilization. So we have a band anchored to a piece of gym equipment, and we're going to put this around our ankle. This is really good if you have impingement, where maybe you have a little pinching sensation when you're doing some of these movements and you're flexing at the ankle. I also like to just do this even if I don't have ankle impingement. I think it's just a great way to mobilize the ankle. So we're gonna grab that band, place it right around our foot, and then we're going to prop it up onto this bench. Just make sure that the band stays below the ankle joint. Oftentimes I see people go a little bit too high, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the mobilization. There's a bone right here, and we want to make sure that it's right up and below the joint. So we'll pull this up onto the bench. Whoop. Just like this. Now we have some good distraction going kind of down and back. So trying to create just a little bit of space in between the joint. And again, same thing. All we're going to do is push our knee over our toes, just like this. And this is one of my favorite things to do. You can also do this on the floor, but I kind of like the bench up. It's a lot easier to, I think, like gain a little bit of leverage here. It makes it a little bit easier to rock back and forth. And that's number 2, and that's one of my favorite ankle mobility exercises to regain some range of motion. And now let's go through some modifications in your squat. So while you're increasing your range of motion, how you can continue to train hard, even with less than ideal ankle mobility. All right, so let's go through a modification for kind of a deep squat. And a lot of people get frustrated because they can't get as low as they want, but you know, we checked our ankle mobility, and maybe your ankle mobility is not the greatest, so it's just a little bit tougher for you to get in that deep squat. So what we want to do is we can modify. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with modifying movement until you regain some range of motion and start training that range of motion so you can do exercise properly. So it's not a big deal, all right? So what I like to do is, if we struggle with having tight ankles, I like to just prop my heels up when I squat. You can roll up a yoga mat like I did. You can roll up a towel. At the gym, a lot of people will use workout plates, kind of weight plates. And all we're going to do is bring our heels and raise them up. And guarantee, if you struggle with deep squats and you have tight ankles, you'll drop down very easily when you do this modification. And the reason why this helps is that when we raise our ankle up, or our heel up, it just buys us a little bit more range of motion in our ankle. So it's a very good modification for now. So just squat down, squat back up. And let's say you regain some of that range of motion in your ankle and it's getting better. What we can do is we can just roll this out a little bit. So now the heel isn't going to be as high anymore. So it should essentially be a little bit tougher, but we're regaining range of motion in our ankle, so it's kind of, we're working together. And we can slowly taper down until our ankles are really good. So this is just a tiny lift now. Awesome. And let's say we've been doing a ton of ankle mobility and we passed the test. Now, piece of cake. We can squat all the way down without any issue. So again, it's really good to, or really important to continue to train while you're working on your range of motion and not stopping, but we can always modify. And that is it. So make sure you run through the assessment. If you passed, doing some of this stuff can still be great to maintain. And if you didn't pass, run through some of those corrective movements that I showed you and continue to train. Just raise up the heels a little bit, and then in no time, you should be squatting nice and low. So if you got anything out of this video, make sure you hit up that thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff, and comment down below. Let me know what you want to see in future videos, and see you next time.